I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner. Happy 2022 and welcome to my final Books Beside My Bed video for 2021. So this video will feature all of the things that I read in the last week of the year. There's quite a few things, but it was a very short text reading week and I read novels, novellas, manga, comic book issues, graphic novels. This week was a whatever I felt like reading, going down a rabbit hole sort of week, and it was great. So this is my reading week from the 26th until the 31st of December. I read a total of 15 things this week. That equated to 2,772 pages, and my yearly reading total at the end of the year was 550 texts. Actually, I think I'm going to choose to say texts from now on because I read a lot of different things that are all texts, but they may not necessarily be books. That's probably my inner teacher nerd coming out, but hey, we're gonna go with it. I read one junior fiction book this week, and that was Berkeley Mansion and the Weirdest Guest by Melissa Keel and illustrated by Adele K. Thomas. This is a new release junior fiction book from an Australian author, which is why I picked it up and just thought I would have a look at it. It is very much geared towards that age group, lots of illustrations, lots of jokes that kids would find funny. You have Edmund, who is new in town and comes to stay at Berkeley Mansion with these 4 dogs. Their names are Cookie, Kyle, Fizzy and Lady Delilah, and they get into all sorts of mischief. There are 3 stories in here with everything from problematic neighbours to problematic friend groups and trying to fit into a very niche group, and a birthday party gone wrong. So there's lots of things in here. Kids would love this. It's got that kind of humor that kids really like. As an adult, I'm less thrilled with it, but that's not the point because it's not written for me, and I was reading it specifically to see if it was something that might be fun to read with my class later in the year, or to even pass on to some of the grade 1 or grade 2 teachers. Then I read 2 books off my NetGalley TBR. The first one was Trusting Cassidy by Susan Stoker. This is the final book in the Silverstone series, so it's book 4, and this one sort of wraps up that particular series. So this one follows Leo, whose codename is Gramps, and he and his team are sent into South America to bring down a drug cartel and rescue a woman who has been held captive there after she started working as a homeschool teacher in the compound. And it turns out that Leo knows this woman. Her name is Cassidy and they knew each other in school, and so they reconnect when he is sent in to get her and her young son out. So this is a second chance rescue. It is romantic suspense, so you have all of those elements in it. I found the pacing a little bit strange in this one, but I think I need to read a bit more romantic suspense just to check out where the pacing actually happens in those books. I've read a few, but not enough to feel really comfortable in terms of recognizing that, because we hit a lot of beats through this book, and also because this book wraps up the series, we also get conclusions to all of the couples from the previous 3 books, as well as Leo and Cassidy. But it was a fun read, and I am looking forward to exploring more of Susan Stoker's backlist. I also read Better Off Wed by Susanna Craig. This is book 3 in the Love and Let Spy series. It is a historical romantic suspense type series, and it is really fun, and they also have the most beautiful covers for these books. I love them. In this one, we have a young woman called Lady Laura Hopkins who is masquerading around town as someone called Lady Sterling, and she is a bit of a vigilante who is going after wealthy men who have mistreated their female employees, and her antics get her the attention of Captain Jeremy Addison, who happens to be the actual Lord Sterling, and he is a codebreaker for the Crown. So they meet on her next job. They end up having to fake a marriage. They end up having to stay in the same bedroom, so you have forced proximity and only one bed, and the whole thing is really delightful because Jeremy is a very bookish hero. He is not someone who went out with the intention of fighting. He's very much a codebreaker. He's very much a spy. And Laura is just a delightfully strong character who is trying to do her very best. So I really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to reading the next book in the series. I also read the next 3 things in the Kate Daniels series. So I read Magic Shifts, which is book 8. This one is a bit strange in terms of the story that it tells in this series, because it sort of bridges the initial part of the series and then the penultimate books in the series, which really ramp up the action. But I actually thoroughly adore it. So it is urban fantasy paranormal romance. In this one, Kate and Karen have just separated from the pack, and they find out that their friend Eduardo has gone missing, and they discover that he has been working as a mercenary for the Mercenaries Guild, and they investigate his disappearance. And along the way, we get caught up in all sorts of different things. And we get to see how Alone Andrews have woven other sort of mythological horror type creatures into the story, including ghouls and jinn. And I really love that storyline because we also meet a couple of extra characters and spend more time with some side characters like Luther, who we've met previously, but he gets more airtime in this book. There's just such a wonderful collection of characters in this series, and it's nice that we get to revisit them pretty frequently. I really enjoyed rereading this one, and we will be talking about all 3 books in the next live show, so I'm not going to go into too much depth beyond this. I also reread Magic Stars by Lona Andrews. This is book 8.5, and it is Derek's novella as he and Julie go off solving a mystery in Atlanta, and there's lots of magic, and for the first time we get Derek's perspective, and he is a very well-loved character in the series, and this is the first time we get his thoughts on what's going on, and in particular his relationship with Julie. And then I also reread Magic Binds, which is book 9 in the Kate Daniels series. This was the last book that I read in 2021, but I just wanted to group all of these together because it's easier to talk about them that way. In this one we have the penultimate book in the main Kate Daniels series. There is another 9.5 spin-off book and then book 10. But this one really sets up the showdown for the last book, and obviously I'm not going to talk about it too much, but Kate and Karen are preparing for the final showdown with Roland, who is the big bad of the series. Things get very complicated and very messy, and there is a vision that is involved that is really dictating a lot of the moves that the various characters make in the series. And also this one really tests how Kate and Karen trust each other. Plus, we finally get the reveal about Christopher in this book, which made my heart happy because I love Christopher. I also read Cup of Joe by Annabeth Albert. This is the first book in the Bold Bruise series, which I've been meaning to pick up, but I just really haven't. There is a whole stack of books in this series written by various authors featuring various characters, but set in the same world. This one is about Levi and Joe. It is an age gap romance. Levi is a new barista, so he is learning the ropes, and he meets Joe in the coffee shop where he works on a really, really busy day when Joe takes pity on him and instead of ordering a really elaborate drink, orders something really simple. And the two then become friends after that and then pursue a relationship. There is some light daddy kink in this book, as well as some other light kink play, but for the most part it is fairly short and sweet. I also read Yakuza Lover Volume 2 and Volume 3. These are by Nozomi Mino. I read the first volume of this way back at the start of the year, I'm pretty sure, when it was recommended to me by Shay and Izzy and various other people. This is a very steamy romance manga. These both came sealed to me when I ordered them, and they're about a college student named Yuri who ends up in a relationship with one of the underbosses for the Yakuza. It is really their relationship as well as Yuri coming to terms with what it means to date someone in the Yakuza, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I read a non-fiction book this week. I read Notebook Connections, Strategies for the Reader's Notebook, because I'm hoping to start some kind of reader's notebook with my foundation students next year. I'm still working out the best way to do that because this is very heavily geared from year 3 onwards, but it was very insightful. There was a lot of really great ideas. I have tabbed everything up from quotes to lesson ideas that I can adapt and modify, and I'm looking forward to spending a bit more time unpacking this and then planning with my team this year. Oh, I did read 2 other manga this week. They were just things that I had sitting on my Kindle. So there was Perfect World Volume 1 by Ria Ruga, which has a hero who is in a wheelchair and he reconnects with a girl he knew in high school who always had a crush on him. So it is their romance, and also the heroine has to work through her own ableism in the story as well, which was really interesting to see. And then I also read Volume 1 of Vampire Dormitory by Ima Toyama. This one is about a girl who is dressed as a boy, and she ends up being taken as a thrall for a vampire, and he doesn't know that she is a girl, and there's a whole lot of other things going on in the book. But it was interesting. It's probably one that I might continue. I haven't decided yet, but it was interesting to pick up. And then finally, I read a whole stack of DC comics and graphic novels this week because there's a story here. I started watching season 3 of Nightwing, and the quickest way to get me back into reading comics and graphic novels is to give me anything Batman related in a visual form. It also doesn't help that this season of Nightwing featured Barbara Gordon, who is Batgirl in the comics, and we don't really get that we get a little bit of a backstory, but we don't get that backstory in the show. But she's one of my favorite characters, and Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson are just that one couple that I love to see anywhere in any kind of media, despite the fact that they are, I don't know, I don't want to say, well, they are kind of problematic, but I don't care. I just love seeing them. So to have them both on screen played by 2 actors that I quite liked, and I actually liked the chemistry they had on screen, it basically made me want to go back and deep dive into my comic book. So I was investigating to see where things were, because I haven't read any of the Batman comics for quite a few years now, so I'm not up to date at all. Anyway, I found out that there was a 2-issue run called Convergence, Nightwing and Oracle, which is part of a larger set of things, but this is an alternate universe story, and it does feature them getting some kind of happily ever after, which is very rare for them in the comics. So I read it and I really enjoyed that experience. There were only 2 volumes, so it was about a total of 50 pages altogether. And then I started reading my graphic novel shelves to pick up some other things that I was just interested in reading. So I did reread Nightwing and Huntress. This graphic novel bind-up features 3 or 4 issues, I can't remember. 4 issues. It was a miniseries, and this is where Nightwing and Huntress have to team up together. Despite the fact that the actual main plot of them investigating the crime is a little bit light on, it was really interesting to have these 2 characters, because Helena is another favourite character of mine, mostly because she is a very complicated individual and her methodology does not always match the Bat family, so it's always fun to see her come up against the ethos of someone from the Bat family, including Dick Grayson. And they also have a very brief one-night stand in this miniseries as well, before deciding it is really not going to go anywhere. I also reread The Killing Joke by Alan Moore. This is the story that ends up seeing Barbara paralysed, and it's really interesting because there was another graphic novel that I read that made a reference to this. I'm going to talk about it in a moment, and the whole idea is that what happened to Barbara when she was shot and paralysed by the Joker had absolutely nothing to do with her. She was complete collateral damage, and her life was completely upended because she was a footnote in someone else's story, which is a really interesting concept that I think they've started to explore more in the comic series as a whole. So the one that I read, which I absolutely loved, was Batman 3 Jokers. And this one is fairly recent. I think it was published in 2020. And we have 3 different versions of the Joker attacking Gotham City. And they go up against Batman, Batgirl, and Red Hood. And all 3 of these particular heroes have a very personal history with the Joker. So Barbara was paralysed by the Joker, Red Hood was killed by the Joker, and Batman just has a long-standing history with the Joker. So to see how they all had to confront their own histories and their paths while confronting the Joker was really interesting, and also to see how they had to work together, because they all do have different styles and different codes at this point, because Jason is a bit more of a loose cannon. It was just really fascinating to me. I really enjoyed sort of the dynamic of the story. The ending was a little bit, but that didn't actually affect the majority of the story. It was actually, I thought it was really well done. Interestingly enough, in this they went for the idea that Jason Todd has feelings for Barbara, which, okay, it's actually an interesting thing to explore. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed what it explored, and now I kind of just want to pick up and see where things are currently, because I love me the Bat family. I love the MCU, but it does not entice me to pick up any of the comics. Anything to do with the Bat family does. It's just, that's my thing. So that is what I read at the end of 2021. Next week you will have the first wrap up for 2022. In the comments below, I would love to know what were the last things that you were reading in 2021. I hope that you had a very safe and happy new year. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a magic wand emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.